Well, good morning, everybody. I thought I'd start by just introducing a little bit about myself and talk to you about things that really matter to me and to InterSystems, and hopefully to you, our partners. But in terms of background, it may be useful for you to know, particularly as our business here in Japan is built on a partner basis, that I was an InterSystems partner for about 20 years before I joined the company a few years ago. And I guess that's one of the reasons why Terry asked me to take on the responsibility for the international business and looking after you, the partners, through our teams that are distributed around the world. And I hope that we will get a chance to talk, as Terry said, so if any of you do want to talk to me or any of the other visiting members of the international team, or indeed the local staff, please make sure you take the opportunity to do that during the course of the morning. As far as today's concerned, I'm going to talk to you for just a few minutes to set the scene for what will be much more interesting information from my expert colleagues, expert at the technical level and the solution level. But I think it's good that I get the opportunity to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that we see happening in the market and give you some examples of things that we've been doing, not just around the world, but also here in Japan. And then perhaps to focus on what we see as some of the opportunities that are starting to come to market, and maybe how we can help you here in Japan to grow your business. Because I think the best recipe for a successful partnership is to have a common vision and some common goals. And I think in most areas we are well aligned with our partners, and I think for me one of the most important alignments is to do with growth. If we can help you to grow, then you're being more successful and we'll be more successful too. And I want to say a special thank you to all of our customers here in Japan. I've listed a few of our partners here just to emphasize the point that we do have quite a lot. We have almost 100 partners here in Japan, and it's too busy a slide to go into specific details. But what I listed here is a few of the partners who are contributing high value to InterSystems business. Of course, every partner is important, and what we're trying to do is get more and more value for you, which leads to more and more value for us. We're proud of what we've been able to help you to do. More importantly, I think we're proud of what you've done. And you've done some very good things in the market, and that's been helping us an awful lot. And you know, the interesting thing about Japan is if you look at the Japanese market, there is a disproportionate number of large international global companies that are headquartered here in Japan. So for us, this market actually represents a great opportunity, because going forward, if we can work more effectively with you here in your domestic market, then hopefully we'll be able to help your organizations all around the world. And Hiroshi has a favorite list that he looks at in terms of market analysis, global market analysis. And I think at the moment, if I remember correctly from his briefing yesterday, something like 40 of the top 100 global companies are headquartered here in Japan. So you can see it becomes a very interesting and important market for us, one where we're starting to invest more of our time and resource to make sure we can help you. I mentioned that I have international responsibility, so I have an office I'm based in Cambridge in Massachusetts at the head office, but actually I have very little to do with our US day-to-day business. Everything that I do looks out into the rest of the world, and I'm responsible for all our international operations. So you can imagine it's quite a challenge. We're in more than 80 countries. So if you discount the US and Canada, which are looked after by the US team, that means I've got 78 different countries to look after. That's a lot, so I don't get to spend an awful lot of time in any one country. And sometimes people, when they see somebody who's got an international job, they think it's all about control. But actually, my job is not about control, it's about helping. And it's about helping teams like the team that we have here in Japan to help you. So it's more of a supporting role than a controlling role. But our activity around the world gives rise to some amazing statistics. When you think that in healthcare, an industry where we're very, very strong, we've got half a billion, 500 million patients whose health records are being held, managed, developed and stored in our technology. In financial services sector, we've got billions of stock transactions going through our software, through our technology. And we're even involved in helping somebody who's trying to map 1 billion stars out in space. So you can see that the kind of things that we're doing are, to coin the phrase, things that really matter. They matter to people because in healthcare their very lives depend on it. They matter in finance because people's wealth and wealth creation is depending on it. And it matters in science because the more we can find out about the galaxy and the world we live in, perhaps the more new things we'll discover and be able to use in the future. So people who use our technology do a lot of good things, things that really matter. They help with health experiences. They help reduce risk, sometimes in some surprising industries. I'm going to talk in a little while about an example in transport, where some of the work that's being done is helping to reduce road traffic accidents. And we help to predict things that may go wrong in the future. And as I mentioned, we're also helping space. But before I go into more detail about the specific examples, maybe it's worth just pausing for a minute and talking about some of the things that are actually driving what's going on in the market today. And for me, one of the key phrases is smart solutions. Many of you will have heard that term, I hope. It's certainly used widely in the technology world. And the reason people are thinking about smart solutions is because everybody's under pressure to do more. So the smarter the solution, in theory at least, the easier it will become for people to use technology to get real value. And value for me is the key word, because if we can't create additional value, why spend more money? So the things that are influencing this push for smarter solutions are, of course, the systems that people have today. Most organisations have already invested a lot of money, in many cases more money than they really would have liked to invest, to get their solution and to have it working effectively. And yet, it's not quite doing everything that they want. But the last thing they want to do really is go to the expense and trouble of replacing it, because there is often no guarantee that new will be better. But they have to deal with those existing systems and make sure that they can get the best from that they can add value to what they already have. And of course, there's massive volumes of data, new sources of data from social media, things like Line and Facebook and WhatsApp, WeChat, depending on which part of the world you go to. There's new data coming from devices, which in itself has given rise to a new set of terminology, the Internet of Things, of course. People want to make real-time decisions. They don't really want to wait. When something happens, they need to know and they need to be able to act quickly. And when you put all of that together, you can understand Terry's comments about the systems, or the solutions, if you like, that people are using are getting increasingly complex. But our job, and what I hope you'll appreciate more from the presentations later on, our job is to make sure that at the user interface level, we continue to have the ability to help you deliver solutions, to build and deliver solutions that are simple and easy for people to use. So the characteristics of those smarter solutions, they've got to be scalable. If you're going to deal with a lot of data, you've got to have something that can operate cost effectively but over massive scale. And Bill, I think you'll be talking more about that later. It's got to be deeply connected. It's no good if we can't connect up all the systems that are there. And when we've done those two things, we end up with what we call a data-rich environment. So our technology, Cache, has the ability to deal with different data models, a multi-dimensional model, multi-type model. And when you put all that together, we can take advantage of our deep sea technology to help you and your customers make quick, smart decisions in an active kind of way. So if you think of the different aspects, when you think about new and existing data sources, you know, in many systems there are tables, relational tables in databases. But there are also other things, could be documents, could be objects. And when you mix all that together, as we can, probably uniquely I think, and then you add to it some of the things that I mentioned like social network, or you add free format text. For those of you that work in healthcare, you'll all know that doctors' notes are a great source of free text. It's very difficult to structure. But when you've got all that together, the key is, how do you get to it? And what we've been able to do is enable that through two technologies, Deep Sea and INO. And you'll be hearing more about that later on. And when the INO technology was first brought to market, it was something that we used within the technology to try and figure out how we could analyse free text. Often people have spent years trying to work out a detailed, complex ontology to code information that's sitting in the environment. Many people look at the market and say that as much as 90% of the data within a business or within an environment is unstructured. And if we can find ways of harnessing that information, it's going to make the value of that information so much higher and so much more usable. And you'll see from later on that what we've done is found a way of doing that to enable people to analyse things, and we've just this week made it available in the Japanese language. So although we started working in English and other European languages, we now have the ability to fully support your local language, which I think will help many of our partners a lot in terms of developing new things. And of course, you can't think about a smart solution without thinking about workflow. And for me, the big complication with workflow is people. You know, computers at the end of the day, they're very predictable. They're binary. At the grassroots level, deep in the technology, everything is simple. It's a 1 or a 0. It's an on or an off. But human beings are much less predictable. So the elements of the system, the solution that are really important are the workflow, because people change their mind. So if we don't do a good job with workflow, if we don't help you to do a good job with workflow, then when somebody changes their mind and go down a different path, things don't work so well. So our emphasis is on making sure that when we collect up all the processes, get all the data from the devices and systems, that we can accommodate what people are doing at the user interface level. And all of that means for us that a smart solution is really something that's operating in a way that's a bit different to how things used to be. Over the last few years or so, the tendency was to get a lot of information together and then to offline it into a data warehouse. But in a smart solution environment, the data in terms of analytics, or the analytics capability, and the transaction processing, so doing things that are updating real time, online, start to merge. So at the heart of the system here, at the heart of the solution, these things are overlapping, and it's that area there where really the access to the information and the analysis is critical. It's got to be fast, it's got to be fitted into the workflow, and it's got to allow your customers, it's got to allow you to enable your customers to make good decisions in real time. So as we go through today, just remember these 4 principles, these 4 characteristics. Smart solutions, they've got to be scalable, deeply connected, rich in data, but it's all about enabling active intelligence. I mentioned that I would take you through a few examples. Here's one from outside Japan, Stanley. I used to be an engineer many years ago, and the thing that I know about Stanley is they make lots of tools and equipment. I was a little bit surprised to find out they had a healthcare business as well, but they do. And they've used our technology with some of their devices and RFID capability to build a solution that doesn't really deliver direct patient care, but it's really enhancing the patient experience. So what they do, you could think of it more as a logistics solution, but using RFID technology in patient identification bracelets or in things in the hospital setting or clinic setting, they're tracking equipment or people while the equipment is being used or the people are going through their healthcare experience. So that means they can do some smart things. They can improve security. They can monitor the patients to see where they are, to make sure that an infant who's in a hospital, everybody knows where the baby is and the baby doesn't get moved without it being tracked. From the point of view of devices, making sure that the nurses and staff who need those devices can find them without having to go hunting around, because they're all identified in terms of their actual location. And from the point of view of the logistics of the facility, to make sure they understand when a room is empty, so it's free for cleaning and preparation for the next patient. All using our Ensemble and HealthShare technology. Here in Japan, Toshiba are using our technology. They're building a solution that will help with road safety. They're using the modern devices, an Internet of Things kind of solution, to get information about the people that drive taxis, buses, trucks, and to monitor those people's wellness. Are they really fit to drive? Are they well enough to drive? Because if we can make sure that the people who are running the transport industry, the drivers in particular, are in good shape, then you see a corresponding reduction in the level of road traffic accidents. And Paltak, who are another customer here in Japan, they are the largest wholesaler of cosmetics and beauty products. You can imagine that that's quite a challenge, getting all that information out into the world and distributing their materials. And they're using our technology in the cloud to build a solution that helps them to do that, and make sure that they make best use of their inventory, give the best service to their clients and to their stores, and they've got information about all of their transactions. In a kind of similar way, this is an example from the UK, where Maplin, who are a national retail chain, their challenge was coming from a slightly different focus. You know, many retail organisations today face the fact that people like to go shopping sometimes. You know, there's some things you just want to go and see and touch, or you need to try before you buy. I find it difficult to buy a new jacket without trying it on. When you look at a picture on the internet, you can't really tell whether it fits well or not. But if I've used a product, I don't know, it could be a cleaning product or something, and I've used it and I'm happy with it, then to reorder is quite simple. It could be done over the internet. And what they recognised was that they were in this world now where there's a mixture. So they're going to have some people who shop online, only online. They'll have some people who'll shop only at the store, but they have an increasing community of customers that are shopping in both worlds. So one of our UK partners, Integrella, has worked with Maplin, the end user retail chain, to build a solution using our Ensemble technology to give them an overall system to integrate the things that they had. They had a back office system, they had a retail store system, and a logistics distribution system at the warehouse. And they really wanted to bring the business together without replacing any of those legacy systems. And we've been able to do that, and working with Integrella, we've put that integration capability into a service model. So they didn't have to have on-premise capability. It's an integration as a service approach using cloud technology. And I mentioned earlier about the mapping of the Milky Way. There's a project called Gaia. We've spoken about this before many times to our customers. You may have heard of it. But the reason I want to emphasize it this time is because of the fact that the volumes of data that are coming back from this satellite that's gathering data about the galaxy is enormous. And what it proves beyond any shadow of doubt is that when you move into the world of the Internet of Things, the thing that's going to matter the most is being able to ingest and deal with that high volume of data. that will arise from all the sensors and devices that are out there in the world today. And whilst it's been great from a scientific interest perspective, at a practical level, for me, the one thing that project has proven is our ability to ingest huge volumes of data. And there are tens of thousands of Java objects streaming back to Earth into our database and being analysed and dealt with every second. So, turning my attention to Japan just for a minute or two, again, I'd like to thank you all for your business. You've helped us to build here a good position in the market. You may have noticed that we're here talking about new things. You may have noticed that we have a new logo even. And there's an element here of us rebranding and repurposing our image around the world because we think that will help you to raise the profile of your business if we can raise our own profile. But today, the three presenters that are going to take you through different aspects of our business are Bill McCormack, who's going to talk about the data platform. So he's going to start, I hope, to explain how we do some of the things that I've talked about at summary level. And whatever he says in his presentation, I know he'll enjoy most of all if you come up to him afterwards and ask him what he really meant, because I know he likes to explain things. From Todd Winey, who's going to talk about our health share solution and how some of the things that we're doing to build a portfolio of healthcare products can help those of you that work in the healthcare industry. Because in the future, we hope you'll be migrating from Cache to what we call HealthShare App Server and making use of some of the application capability that we've built to help accelerate your speed to market and the breadth and depth of your solutions. And then Benjamin is going to talk about iKnow. Now that we've got iKnow available in Japanese, Benjamin, I'm just curious to know, will you be presenting in English, Flemish, Dutch, or Japanese?
A little bit of everything.
Yeah. Well, that should get the translators hopping around. But I hope that you all enjoy the presentations. And once again, I want to thank you for being here. I want to make sure you feel that you have the freedom and the opportunity to talk to any member of the InterSystems team during the course of the day. Thank you very much.